Hi guys, this is Miss Pecenka. We are doing 1.2 today, which is points, lines, and planes, and we are jumping right into geometry. So if you are at home, make sure to write this down on a piece of paper, or you can print out the notes that are attached on Canvas. This is for if you need a little bit of extra help in the classroom. So I will be teaching it through Zoom if you guys want to hop on there, or you can do it on your own through here and then hop on when you have questions. So we are going to work on the notes, and then we will also have homework. So you guys are going to be able to differentiate between lines, line segments, rays, and planes, and you will also be able to draw coplanar points, collinear points, and lines that intersect. So first of all, I want you guys to draw a line on your piece of paper or on your, your notebook paper, whatever you want. So draw a line, okay? And then draw, another line. How are these lines the same? And when we draw a line, lines always extend in, the opposite directions infinitely. So these two lines are the same because obviously they're both lines. They both extend in the same directions, left and right. But they are different because one is more so a horizontal line, and then this one is on an angle. What makes it a line? So usually we say, a line is straight, like this is not really a line. A line has to have, obviously that's not exactly straight, but a line has to not have any bends or curves or anything like that. And a line extends infinitely in both directions. That's why we put these arrows here. If we just had this would technically be a line segment, okay? So, looking at your notes, we're going to start with our point definition. So a point is a location in space represented by a dot. It's usually named by a capital letter. So for a diagram, you are going to see, you'll see a point, it will be a filled in line, and then it will have a capital letter by it. To write the name down, it would be point M. And there is no notation for a point. So you either write it as, this one here with a dot and then an M, or you write it as point M. And make sure that when you're making the diagram, you don't make it just like a little mini dot like that, because that is going to be very hard for me to see. At any point in this video, you guys can go ahead and pause it and fill in your notes, take your time on this, make sure that you have everything correct, okay? I'm moving on to the next one. So our next definition is a line. A line is a figure extending infinitely in two directions and is uniquely determined by 2 points. So when we are making a line, you have to have 2 points on that line. And obviously this is not the nicest. Maybe I need to get my stylus out. So you have 2 points on a line. We could say, this point is P, this point is Q, okay? You have to have the 2 points there. You have to have the arrows. When you call this by name, it would either be called line PQ or line QP. It does not matter what order you put this in for a line, okay? For your notation, then, you just make, a line with 2 arrows on it. You don't have to add the dots in, so this can be either PQ or it can be QP, okay? So again, pause it if you need to take a couple of minutes here to fill in your blanks on your note sheet, or write down the whole definition. You guys will be having homework checks, so obviously maybe not this week, but maybe next week. and you can use your notes on those. So these will be helpful for you. So make sure that you're taking notes if you're at home. And if you need to download the note page, go ahead and do that. Next up is a plane. A plane is a set of more than 2 points extending in length and width, often represented by a parallelogram. So parallelogram is kind of like a rectangle, but the lines are all slanted. So for a plane, when you name a plane, we'll get to that in a second. So to draw it, okay, parallelogram kind of looks like a square or a rectangle, but has slanted lines. And then, as always happens, so we have point I. Okay, this isn't letting me do it now for some reason. Point I. Why is that going away? Point I, point P, and point G. Okay, obviously that's not the nicest, but you get the picture. So it has more than 2 points in that parallelogram. We name our planes by using 3 points. So say this parallelogram or this plane had, you know, the point T in it as well. We wouldn't use that. We would only use 3 out of the letters, okay? So this would be called, you know, plane PIG, or you could call it plane IGP. It doesn't matter what order you put those letters in because it is in a plane and there is no certain order in which to list them. The notation for a plane, this is probably the easiest way to write it, is just draw a mini parallelogram and then, you know, write your letters out. So you would say, you know, plane PIG or plane IGP. Okay? Again, pause it if you need to stop there. So a line segment is all the points on a line that lie between the 2 endpoints. And this is probably your most important word here, endpoints. So in a diagram, we have our endpoints. Yes, I know that's not straight, but we have the endpoints of a line, and that is what makes it a line segment. You have to have those 2 points there and labeled in order for it to be a line segment. So that would be your diagram, and then your name would be line segment YB. The notation that you would use is just, you know, a line segment without the points there, line segment YB, or you could do it, you know, the line segment BY. Again, if you need to pause it, go ahead and do that. A ray is a part of a line that extends from an endpoint infinitely in one direction. Okay, so for the diagram, you have your endpoint, which in this case we're making it D, and then it extends infinitely in another direction. And we'll call this guy E. Y. And that should be a closed circle. I obviously cannot make it closed for some reason here. So your name then would be called ray DE. Now with rays, you cannot name it ray ED because you need to always use the endpoint first. Okay, so for this notation then we would say DE, okay? Now, for example, if I had, you know, the ray going in this direction and it was still D and still E here, we would still name that one DE, because you are always starting with the end point no matter which direction it goes, whether it's right or left. Opposite rays are two rays that extend in opposite directions from the same endpoint, which means it forms a line. So if we had the point C here, and then we had T here, give me a second. If we had A here and C here, our endpoint is going to be A. So that means this one extends to the left, and then this one extends to the right. So you have ray AC, and you also have ray AT. So this is what I was talking about on the last slide. You have to name the endpoint first. So you have ray AT and ray AC are opposite rays. Okay, and again, make sure that we are using the endpoint to name those rays and to do the notation of those rays. Okay, so for the first one, I really would like you guys to actually pause the video here and then go ahead and try and do these. So you can go, one by one and watch each one, or you can try them all and then get the answers when you are done. So for the first one, we have line DE. So that means that you can, you can use either DE like this, or you can do ED like that. The notation would either be D coming first or D coming last. It does not matter for a line because you do not have, the lines, the segments, or the end points. For the next one, you're looking at the notation, it's ray OM. So that means your name would be ray OM. And because in the notation it starts with that O, you have to start the ray with an O. So it can either go to the right or it can go to the left. And I apologize, my points on there are not very great. I do not have my stylus yet, but I will get that soon. For the next one, the third one, you have 2 points on a line, and it's A and B. So you have line AB, or you can also do line BA. And again, for the notation, you don't need the points there, but you do need to put the letters. And for lines, it can go in either order, does not matter. So you have line AB or line BA. For the next one, you have a plane TUV. So the diagram, you need to draw your parallelogram and then do your points. And it doesn't matter what order they are in. They can be anywhere on that plane that you want. Okay? Then the notation, you can either, I find this way to be the easiest, and you would just write it. Plane TUV, you'd use that parallelogram shaped and then the letters. For the next one, you just have a point, and the letter is K, so it's just point K as the name, and there is no notation. For the last one, your name is line segment GF. So, like I said before, for these ones, it doesn't really matter what order you put it in. it matters only for the rays. So you can either do GF or you can do FG. And then your notation is just the little line. You can either do GF or you can do FG. And these need to have the endpoints there. So check your work for the you do section. Okay, so this is something that you can do on your own just to do a little practice, but name the figure below. So pause it or just do it out loud if you guys are at home. If you are in class, we're just going to do this on whiteboard. So this, because there is an endpoint here, this would be called ray PQ, or you write it with the notation. And remember, the endpoint has to come first. This one, you have, your parallelogram with your points. It has 3 points in there. So this one is a plane. You can name it like this, or you can also do the little parallelogram thing and you can name it, plane ABC, or you could do the shape and do BCA, whatever you would like to do on that one. So draw line AB would be your next one. And again, you can pause this and then take your time and get it, and then look at the answer, which will be next here. So again, you have to have your arrows going in both directions and you have to have your points there. So geometric notation just means that you are writing it not with, the name. So look back at your notes for the notation. So this is a line segment because we have two endpoints. So you could list it either way here. Name the figure below. This would be called point D, and there is no specific notation for this, you just name it. Draw plane X, Y, Z. Pause it, or I'll give you a minute to do that. So you can either do it like this. It's usually in a parallelogram, so that's what we will usually have it as. And it doesn't matter the order that you put these in. You could have your letters wherever you want inside that shape. Draw a line segment and label the endpoints. Okay, your endpoints, the letters don't matter. It can be any letter you want. So take a second to do that or pause the video. And there is one example. You could also do, you could do C and T if you wanted. It doesn't matter what letters you choose. It can be any letters you want. Okay, so now on your notes you have this you do section. I want you guys to pause the video and go ahead and answer these. So give yourself some time, pause that video, and answer these 5 questions. And you are going to use the figure on the right there. So there are 2 other ways to name this line EF. So EF happens to be this guy here, okay? And we can call it line N, and it has to be a lowercase because this is the name of that line. What are they called? In figures like this, we use, lowercase letters like this to name a whole entire line or a whole entire shape. This C here represents the whole entire plane. So it's a little bit easier than, using 2 letters to name a line or 3 letters to name a plane. So for number 1, you can call that line N. You can also call it, you can also use your notation and you can call it, you know, line, you could do BF if you wanted to. Does not matter. You can use the E, the B, or the F. What are 2 other ways to name plane C? So, I'll erase this stuff here. Plane C is the whole entire parallelogram as a whole. So the only letters that you cannot use are these 2 here, okay? You can use any of the other ones. So you can either use notation and say plane EBF, plane GFE. You can use any of those letters that you want. And obviously C you can't use because that is what the plane is called, plane C. Name 2 segments. So we could have segment EB here, and we could also have BF. Now, there are a couple different things about this. So technically in geometry, you can, like I could potentially make a line segment here. Or it could, you know, I could make it from B to G or F to G. You could do any of those, so that works as well. Usually, for the most part though, you guys will do the ones that you can see easily, like EB and BF, just because you don't want to get it wrong on accident or something. So then you want to name your 2 rays. So you could do, technically this ray here, let me highlight it, this ray here does not have, that was bad. This ray here does not have a second point there. So we could possibly name it ray, whoops, I want it in black. Oh, sorry guys. We could possibly name it ray B. But the easier, you know, options would be ray E, whoops. You could do ray BF, and you could also do ray FE. So there are definitely different options there. Name a pair of opposite rays. So remember, opposite rays have to have the same endpoint in common. So in my eyes, the only one that I would want to do here is ray BE and ray BF, because they have the same endpoint in common, that B, and then you are going in opposite directions, obviously. So BF goes to the right, BE goes to the left. And remember, you need to start with that endpoint when you are naming the rays. Okay, moving on to some more definitions here. Coplanar is a set of points in the same plane. So we are going to use this figure for the next 3 definitions here. So some examples would be, you know, you'd have points A, C, and B. You could also do, you know, points B, A, and D. You could do any of those 3 points. The big question, though, is the E. The E is not on the gray plane, so it is not coplanar with those other points. Collinear are points that lie on the same line. So we would just want to name these, you know, by using point whatever and point whatever. So you can use any points here that lie on the same line. So I did point A and point B. You could also do, you know, point A and point E, because, let me get a different color here. Point A is that middle point right here, and then point E lies on that line as well. So you could do any two lines that lie on the same line. Intersect is when two figures have a point in common. So figures are anything. They could be shapes, they could be lines, they could be line segments, they could be rays, anything of that nature. So for this example, I did line AB and line DC because they intersect at point A. And it's important to write that intersection point as well. So you have, you know, you have this guy right here, and you also have this line here. So they all intersect in point A. All right, next part. So draw a sketch and label as needed. I want you guys to pause the video here at this point and go ahead and try these on your own, and then check your answers with mine. So 3 collinear points, A, B, and C. Does not matter what order you put those in, but they are collinear, so they all lie on the same line. M and N intersecting PQ at point R. Okay, so that is kind of like the last example that we did with the definitions. So I have, you know, line MN, and I'm just going to make it on an angle because that's a little bit easier for me to have some more room. And then you also have PQ. And remember, they have to have those points there to show that it is actually that line. So then they intersect at point R. So that means that on both those lines there, that is point R, right in the middle where they intersect. Okay? Coplanar points, W, X, Y, and Z. And again, this does not matter what order you put them in or where you put them in the shape or the parallelogram, okay? You just need to make sure that you have them all in there. And then for number 4, opposite rays, you have JK and JC. So because they both have that J in common, that is your end point for both. So I'm going to make that a J, and then it does not matter what order you put them in because the notation for rays are the same, so you just have to make sure that that end point is the same. Okay, so you could have that, or you could also have the C first and the K last. Does not matter which way. Okay, then on to the last couple of questions. So we have name a point that is collinear with the given point. So you are looking at your, well, for example, for number 13, we have B and E, right? So B, I want a thicker pen here. Hold on a sec. B and E lie on this line, okay? So they are asking what is collinear with those 2 points. So the answer with that would be the other point that's on the line, which is H. Okay, so go ahead and try those and come back and get your answer. So I'll give you a couple minutes for that. Pause the video and try them. F and H is here, so a coplanar or collinear point would be G. That's a really bad G. Let me try that again. And that's not. Okay. Then for number 15, we have D and G. So find where D and G are. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, so make sure that you're taking your time. So the collinear points in that one would be point A, and you could just use the letter here. You don't have to write out point A. For number 16, A and C. So A and C lie here. So the other collinear point would be B. Then you have H and E. So H and E would be here. Your collinear point then there would be B. Next one would be G and C. So your collinear point for that one would be E, because it's here on that line. Your next points are A and D. So A and D is here. So your collinear point with that one would be G. And then your next one is B and C. B and C. So here. So your collinear point with that would be A. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, make sure to send me an email. This is for my Monday kids that are at home for the day and supposed to be in my class. So odd people, letters M through Z, and then Tuesday, letters M through Z. See you guys soon.